And hey, these are just some thoughts that I had when I finished Long Story Short the first time. I started writing these maybe about 2 hours after I finished the series. There's not a whole lot of visuals here, so treat this kind of like a podcast or something. You can clean the house or do the dishes or just click off the video and hit dislike. I'll understand. I completely get it. Um, talk about the show in the comments because I want to keep talking about it. And I wrote too many words about this, and I need to do something with them. One of my favorite lines from the whole series is probably actually the first one that is said by Elliot. Grief is perplexing. What an opening line from a show that seems to be a quiet reflection on grief and the nature to which we exist within those boundaries or guidelines. The show seems to be saying there's no strict guidelines or rules with how to deal with these feelings or emotions. You deal with them on your own terms. You feel the things that you feel. As we often repeat on an endless loop, everyone deals with death in a different way. We learned pretty early on in this season that the family seems to be doing a lot of inwards reflecting on their life due to the recent passing of their mother, who died by COVID, and that explains why the family continues to wear masks, socially distance, and also explains a lot of the previous behavior that rules the family throughout the entire season. In episode 4, Shira outright dismisses a school that she was so desperate to get into because they're having an indoor meeting without mask mandate. In episode 5, Avi is the only one seen wearing a mask at the school meeting and also at the school in various locations. In episode 10, the family is distant from others and seen wearing masks. Grief is perplexing and it's weird, and it lingers in ways that we don't realize until it's far too late. If I were to make a personal thesis statement for the entire show, it would be as such. Long Story Short is a TV show that is not so much soaked with grief, but more so dampened with it. To be soaked implies that the characters are seemingly dealing with grief in every aspect of their lives, but it seems to be quieter in this show. Grief, as Long Story Short says, is a lingering feeling that can be refelt at any time. It doesn't go away, it just gets more manageable to deal with. Let's start with the obvious example. In episode 4, Shira can't cook. Shira plans to cook a meal for her entire school's potluck that they are trying to get their kids into. For most of the entire episode, it seems as if we are lingering in comedy that is then reframed through the sudden realization that Shira isn't really doing this because she wants to learn how to cook or doing all this because she wants to get her kids into a school. She's really doing this as a way to feel close to her mother again. What a sudden revelation this was to experience. Watching her bite into that quiche and experience tears at the sudden, overwhelming, warm feeling that this gave her. For me, this moment was less about her getting it right, but it's a small moment where she realized that her mother really did love her. Her mother adjusted the ingredients for her because her mom knew that she liked onions so much. She could also be crying because of the amount of onions that was in the thing, but either way, it's emotional to say the least. The entire show seems to be allowing characters to live in inaction. Not in inaction in the sense that the characters aren't physically moving forward. They are, but in inaction mentally. It seems as if in 2021, the characters are waiting around for permission to keep living from a parental figure that isn't around anymore. The entire season is about that, taking back action, hitting play, making decisions for the future. It isn't about fixing it, but making the steps in the right direction. Yoshi accepts his faith and uses it to explain the context around his mother's passing. Shira finally understands that though her mom had tough love for her, her mom really did understand and love her as much as she could. Avi finally understands why his mom clung on so tightly to him. That scene in the hotel room is a push of that idea. It's not about taking back action, but moving in the right direction. For the entire season, whenever a character is contacting another character, it is through the context of wanting/needing something or experiencing a loss in some sort of way. As Elliot says in the final episode, we need happy reasons to be together. Elliot is finally admitting that the family has been surrounded by so much sadness and grief that they need to get together every once in a while and have a board game night, which is ironic considering the consequences. I often think about storytelling techniques, which makes sense. I love how stories are told. One thing I really like is the difference between a flashback and a memory. A flashback is a thing that we need to understand the context of the story that is being told. A memory is something that a character remembers so much that we need to see it in order to understand the character's emotional state. If you're looking for the difference between a flashback and a memory, look no further than where it's placed structurally in the story. Usually I have found that flashbacks are placed at the top of the story, or at the top of a chapter, or at the top of a movie starting, or at the top of an episode that is starting. They are outside of the story and provide a framing device to understand the story that is about to be told. A memory is something that takes place within the story itself, something that a character is thinking of that we need to be shown in order to understand what they are thinking of. This is what makes Long Story Short so great to watch. Each episode starts with a flashback, the context to understand a story. It is then fully explored by the time that we reach the end of the episode. Let's use an obvious example. In episode 2, we see Avi and Shira playing at the beach. Avi then abandons Shira to go play with some other people who he finds cooler than her. The line of dialogue that reads into the intro is Avi help, as she slowly gets pulled under by the current in the background. The episode then starts with us finding out that Shira needs Avi's help to have kids. She then asks him, and that starts the entire concept for the whole episode. Can they have this argument and come to a conclusion before Hannah goes on stage? As we dig deeper, it is revealed that Shira still kind of holds a grudge against Avi for the things that happened at that beach. For me, it's not that she's looking for a solution to these things or an I'm sorry, but affirmation that he still loves and cares for her. But Avi makes the entire argument about him. Even though she is asking for something from Avi, it is also the case that she is asking for him to understand her as well. But he never meets her at this level because realistically, Avi can't meet her at this level. He has far too many things going on at the time that we meet him at for him to understand someone else's problem. It's just not something he can do right now. The episode ends on a quiet sort of existential note in which she says to his question of, I need you to tell me that you are doing this because you want me, that I am a good brother. If you're asking for it, I can't give it to you because it wouldn't feel earned. What a great line this is in retrospect. It says most everything that we need to know about their dynamic in current day than most anything that we've seen so far in the show. Shira feels like she can't connect with her brother. Ironically, this episode ends on this note from Max. Not Max, it's Yoshi, because I wrote Max and everything, because the actor who plays Yoshi is Max Greenfield. You and Avi are so close in age that sometimes I feel like the extra one. It's complicated. If I were more simplistic, I would say something like, it's not that they're so close, but that they seem to understand each other more. I actually think that Yoshi is right here. Avi and her are so close in age, and that is what makes the understanding more closer. But at the same time, it's that closeness that gets in the way and makes things a whole lot more muddier than expected. All that to say, this idea that carries through the entire season of Avi needing to check in with his family is a great one. Shira tells Avi that he could have checked in with her. The episode ends with him sending a text that says, checking in, but it feels too tongue-in-cheek, like he's using comedy to mask the real emotions that he was feeling in the parking lot that night. The look on Shira's face is an understanding of who her brother is, that he's only sending this text as a result of what she said, that he might have heard what she said, but he wasn't listening. But maybe he was, we the audience think. Maybe he'll change throughout the entire show. Maybe we can see him change. Maybe that's the thing that the show's going to show us. Maybe. We never see Avi calling Shira, but instead it is Shira who calls Avi multiple times throughout the show. What a sad note to linger with when you finish the show. The entire time I just wanted to see him call her, and then they could have a talk about what was going on. They could have that conversation that he tells his mother that they need to have. But my wants and needs are clearly not important, are they, Raphael Bob Waxberg? Are they? I'd love to say that though these characters are physically masking up to avoid COVID, that's all the masks that they're wearing. But it's actually about the other masks that they are wearing all season. We never really get to see behind those masks because the characters we see are far too good at hiding their true emotions. We need to see the actions that lead up to them putting on the mask. Then we need to see the actions after they pull the mask down just a little bit and draw our conclusions about the stuff in the middle. I believe in my mask. The man I made up is me. I believe in my dance and my destiny. Sam Shepard. Let's continue on this thought. One of the ideas that I like about Avi this season is his inability to say I love you. It's a thing that you could say was instilled by his mother, especially considering that cold open at the top of episode 9. But I think that kind of discredits Avi's agency by the time that he's in that interaction. Avi has grown a bit, or at least it looks like he has. There's a whole lot of nature mixed in along with this nurture. That's not to say that his mother's words didn't influence his stance. For me, it seems as if his mom's words just made sense rather than changed his mind. That what she said just worked. It just fit in that corner or pocket of his mind. And so he adapted that to his own lifestyle. That to say, this little hook carries through the entire show for him. I thought it was great. He seems almost ashamed of the fact that he's unable to say I love you to the people that he cares about. He holds back. He puts his hand behind his neck. He's dealing with an internal grief over the inability to say the word. Despite it feeling as if he gets no resolution, I do still really like the point of contention over his words here. It seems as if given the right moment to expand on those thoughts, or given the time to sit and allow him to say what he said, he would have said it, and that leaves this moment feeling a lot more bittersweet than it should. She gets out of the car. She runs over to to the school bus. This moment feels so real, and I guess that is a large portion of why this entire show works really well. It's a cartoon, but it feels more real than ever. Characters are forced to sit with their emotions, feelings, and words, and that's what really works. This show reminds me of a quote from The Little Prince. All grown-ups were once children, but only a few of them remember it. What an evocative quote this is, and how perfect I feel it fits within the thematic links of this entire show. Each kid feels as if they're trying to hone their inner child version of themselves, but it's almost clouded by the fact that they are grown-ups. There's this wall of irony and disconnection that it seems like they're trying to break through in the entire show. In Wolves, we are set up to believe that there are bullies in Hannah's high school that have been bullying her, and that is why she isn't making any friends. But our expectations are soon subverted when we learn that the wolves are literal wolves and not symbolic wolves. The episode becomes an exploration on the different symbols and physical qualities a wolf can take on. The wolf soon becomes symbolic again when the parents group is trying to raise hell and strong-arm the school board into getting rid of the wolves, or the mask mandate, or the bathroom stalls for Kevin. As Avi puts it, the wolf being a helpful symbol, because wolves obviously bad and everything else after that. The wolves are symbolic for the school board, the parents, the bullies, and anything else that seems to be keeping Avi or Hannah down. As the episode comes to a conclusion, we learn about the wolves in a beautiful way through the lens of Hannah's camera. We get to see the wolves the way that Hannah does, as these beautiful symbols for life. The wolves become a way for a dad and a daughter to connect on an emotional level. For Avi, it seems as if he's unable to do much deep diving or exploring of his own emotions, but that he can try his best to. The lens provides some safe distance that allows him to open up and connect with his daughter. It is through his daughter that he understands himself. Or to resolve the quote from earlier, we may forget what it's like to be a kid, but the reminder on how to be one is through the lens of another kid. Or your own kid. It's really difficult to say your own kid, and then that leaves out everyone else who doesn't have a kid, but you explore the world through a child's eyes, and it's really confusing. You can quote me on that, but pretty much everyone has said that. For Yoshi, life seems to be a confusing mess. It seems ununderstandable. When we start the series, Yoshi understands the world that we exist within through religion, that if he is able to understand it through that lens, then things are going to be okay, that he is going to be okay. The only problem with that form of hope for Yoshi is that that form of hope provides a boundless, ungraspable thought that we live a life and then we die, and there is no afterlife to be found here. There is no structure set for him to follow. This is told to him in the first episode. We watch as Yoshi attempts to find meaning and ends up floating away from the ground. Yoshi is treading water for pretty much the entire series. He seems like he has a full grasp on who he is, what his purpose is for being here, but he still feels more lost and confused than the rest of the entire family. He is unable to form a deep, meaningful connection as a result. He is a lost soul searching for meaning in a world that doesn't give answers to anyone, but if you look for them hard enough, you will be able to find some. To put these two long, complicated paragraphs simply, Yoshi works much better if he's following a strict set of rules and guidelines. Otherwise, he finds himself oftentimes walking outside those guidelines. He likes doing that, but he doesn't want to exist entirely outside of them. This thought comes full circle at the end of the series when he reveals to his family that he has decided to follow a new form of the denomination, one that allows him to feel hope for life and gives him a strict set of rules and guidelines to exist within. As he puts towards Avi near the end of the series, why follow rules if you aren't going to follow the rules? It can be a bit confusing, but for me what he's saying here is why follow any rules if you're going to break one? That felt pretty obvious and didn't need an exploration or an analysis, but I decided to do it. So let's put a metaphor out there. Early on in the show, we learn that Yoshi has a flip phone. This is then brought up again in episode 5. To them questioning why he has one, he says, "I didn't get it to be interesting, it's for my mental health." I really like this moment that he has. If we are speculating, it seems like Yoshi got a flip phone so that he couldn't use social media or any of the apps on his phone because he has the self-control to admit that he fall victim to using those apps and things, and that's not something that he wants to do. This is him restricting himself, putting rules and guidelines that he is forced to follow by having a flip phone. I see it the same way with his response to switch movements to Orthodox Judaism. It gives him some guidelines and rules and provides him the hope that he was looking for. So he starts following that domination. Is that okay? Is that what I want to say? I need to back up, make sure. I think so. Yeah, because so he switches movements. This is me trying to understand to make sure that this is what I want to say. He switches movements. He switches movements because in the first episode he's told that death has no meaning, and he believes that death should have meaning, or if it doesn't have meaning, then he's going to spiral out of control. And so this is him attempting to understand that through those guidelines. I do think this is justified. I hope this is not insensitive. Thank you. Let's come back. Okay. Another bit I really liked about Yoshi and Baby's interaction was his comment, "It's hard for me to make deep connections." Rachel follows that up by saying, "Loads of guys say that." Yoshi takes this as her saying that he's the kind of guy that would say something like that, but she tries to reinforce that she wasn't saying that about him, and he says, "I was talking about me." It's things like this that make me really appreciate the depth to each conversation that the show has, and how nuanced the show is just in general. To use a term that I don't really like all that much here, in a sense we're talking about the male loneliness epidemic, but instead of doing what most guys do and say they're lonely or depressed or aren't feeling well, to refuse doing something, to refuse deeper connection, or to open the door to just having sex and move on and not start a relationship, Yoshi seems to be genuinely interested in the deeper connection and conversation that comes from this question. That if Rachel had let him say his piece, it wouldn't have ended at, "I'm just a bit depressed," or "I'm not feeling all that great about my existence or place in the world." That Yoshi would have been talking about his philosophy on happiness, how he functions as a person in today's world, what his religion really means to him at the current moment, and so much more. To quote him later in the series, "I have felt so lost for so long, and with this, I don't feel lost anymore." All that to say, for Yoshi, it's easy to love and be open to life experiences, but he finds it difficult to find his meaning in this cold, calculating world that we live in. But the same can't be said for his brother, Avi, who can't love easily or be open to new experiences, but was able to find some meaning in this cold, calculating world that he lives within. That, in a sense, is why Avi clings so hard to his mom. It's not that she is his mom or that he is a pushover, although that seems to be what Jen might be thinking. It's an understanding that though he doesn't agree with everything that she says or does, he loves her deeply, and the people that Avi does love, that he has opened himself up to and express deeper connection with, he will love and accept despite their flaws or misgivings. This, for me, is what we get out of his relationship with his daughter. He would go to the ends of the earth for Hannah if that meant fighting literal or physical wolves. The same could be said for Shira or Yoshi or Jen even. If they aren't making fun of you, then that means they don't like you. This is Avi's outlook on love and justification for how his family treats Jen. That even though Avi believes his family is hard and mean to Jen sometimes, they do it because they love and care for her. Now, could I say that she doesn't like Jen? I don't know, that's pure speculation. I just really wanted to talk about the fact that the vase was the only thing that stayed up and not broken after the mattresses destroyed the entire house. And that was very comedically funny for me. And I just want to make sure other people saw it. I saw it too. I just want to make sure other people saw it. The final scene where he watches his daughter walk off isn't a total change of character for Avi, but it's an understanding that he needs to start to understand the people that he loves more and more. As he puts at the top of the finale, it's a glass half full. Or, I finally understand. Though Avi still doesn't consider himself to be Jewish, he has started to accept what other people see in the faith. It's a moment that hits you surprisingly well. He finally understands what others get out of it, and that's so nice. It's why those flashbacks of his mother lighting the candles hit so hard with us, because he and we, as audience members, understand what the others get out of it. There are so many other things that I could say about this show. Yeah. Oh my god, it kind of ends all of a sudden, huh? Well, because I already talked about Shira's ending and character and drive. And I don't feel like she gets a whole lot this season. It's kind of just that. That's her thing. Shira has been paused for so long and she's hitting play. You know? There are so many other things that I could say about the show here. I didn't get to talk about the art style, which has this almost watercolor pastel feeling to it, pushing forward this constant theme of not having to be perfect or understanding somebody's emotions or lines feeling jagged, or the fact that all these extra wide shots are done in simplistics as a way to talk about memory and retrospectively what we see as memory, or how Kendra's arc for me is one of the most moving parts of the entire show. But I really have to stop there. This video is 20,000 words I wrote. I have to stop eventually, or I'll never be able to release this video. To make a long story short is the title of the show and carries with it its retrospective meaning. By the time we reach the end of each of these episodes, we, the audience, could say, to make a long story short, Kendra finally learned a lesson her dad found it tough to learn. But it's about the journey in between that, for us, makes it the most meaningful. And that's a long story short. Thank you. Hello. Welcome to the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed. I wanted to say outright, I'm not Jewish. So if I said anything wrong, I deeply apologize. Please forgive me and punch me in the face next time you see me. Maybe don't actually do it, but say that you are going to, and then do that to me and I'll flinch. Thank you for watching my video over Long Story Short. Like I said in the intro, I usually watch a TV show and then I take notes over it and then I write a really long-winded rant thing about the thing that I watched, and I never released those things to anybody. But this is one that I really liked and I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, and I wanted to talk about the show with other people, and so I figured I could release this and then other people would talk about it in the comment section and tell me how wrong I am about the show, and then we could have a full discussion. We could have a conversation like Naomi and Avi. We could have a conversation. Yeah, thank you for watching. I enjoyed your company. Thank you. I'm going to walk away now because I will keep rambling until we end the end. Oh, go watch my Last of Us video. You should go watch my Last of Us video. Spent so long on making it. And it's probably one of the best things that I've ever done, I think. It's one of my favorite analyses I've ever written. I'm not a good writer. Somebody send help. But yeah, go watch that video because I love it so much. It took me a long time to make. So please go watch my Last of Us video. And thank you for watching this one. Okay, now end it. Cut.